Our big story on India tonight. The World Bank, in that report they put out, is saying that the sustainable cooling solutions are going to become a $1.5 trillion investment opportunity, and this could happen in the next decade. Why exactly? Well, with climate change, raising temperatures all around the world, Indians are going to need to cool themselves down in more ways than one. And sustainable cooling solutions can now help slow down the impact of global warming, also reduce carbon emissions over a period of time, which is exactly what got us thinking. If this is the way to go for the future, where do you invest your money? Because if that is the trend, you want to beat not just inflation, you want to make sure that climate change is a story that we buy into, because you're going to find more and more solutions working towards addressing the issues raised by climate change. A Standard Chartered report that we've been poring over says that retail investment is at an $8.2 trillion opportunity as it stands now, and this for sustainable goals-driven businesses. But of the 3,000 investors that were surveyed across growing markets, almost 50% of them have said that access to sustainable investments has been the biggest barrier. So the question is, where do you put your money if this is the goal that the world is working towards, that India is working towards? Let's get perspective on this. For that discussion, Sachin Kotak, partner at Bain Company, is joining us, along with Chandra Bhushan, who's an environmentalist and, of course, a CEO at iFOREST. Great to have you both with us, gentlemen. Sachin Kotak, coming to you. According to the World Bank report we've been talking about, using alternative and innovative energy-efficient technologies can open an investment opportunity worth $1.6 trillion by the year 2040. Surely, when it comes to sustainability, the scope of investments in green energy and innovative technologies must be much, much larger. So where are we at currently? What is the scope of growth that you see in areas like green hydrogen production, in EV adoption, in renewable energy? Wind and solar energy is top of mind right now, but there are so many areas that are coming up. How much of that interest are you seeing when it comes to investments towards these?
No, I think if you ask me, whatever that we talk about in the green space and the sustainable space, it's an understatement in terms of the investment numbers, right? I believe this is that once in a century kind of a thing that's happening, which is what you saw in computers, what you saw in digital a few years back is actually what's happening in energy right now. And in fact, a lot of our clients are looking at profit pools which are emerging from this. We at Bain track 100 plus different opportunities, and each of them has billion-dollar businesses. There are unicorns globally coming up, and the next wave is all about energy. In fact, some people like me have become converts. I used to do a lot of industrial works, but I have started doing a lot more energy work recently, and I think that's the trend going forward as well.
Sustainability is the buzzword, and we are seeing more and more investment opportunities crop up. Chandra Bhushan, would you say the focus on greener cooling technologies is the mainstay of this push? Indeed, it applies to varied industries: pharmaceuticals, real estate, transport, food distribution systems. If perhaps you can help us figure out the lay of the land in terms of the cooling ecosystem as it stands today, the vendors, the small industries, the startups that feed into it. Is the infrastructure in place for fast growth in this particular area? Is that something that you've noticed?
Well, Vikram, your question has too many components. So let me break it down for you a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. Cooling is the biggest business now also. Air conditioning is the fastest growing business in India, grows at about 10% every year, simply because in India right now, our penetration of cooling technology is very limited. Not even 10% of households have air conditioning. So air conditioning business is growing very fast. But the fact of the matter is the current air conditioner that we are using is a dinosaur technology. It's an obsolete technology, a technology that was developed in earlier part of 20th century. Now, you need technology, a cooling technology, which is environmentally sustainable. The fact of the matter is the air conditioning that we use is responsible for ozone hole. The entire ozone hole happened because of the kind of refrigerant gas that we use in air conditioning and refrigeration system. So we need sustainable cooling solution because of two reasons. One, The current solution is not sustainable. In fact, it is environmentally damaging, highly energy inefficient. You need high energy efficiency technology. You need technology that's not going to create a hole in ozone layer or cause global warming. That's what the current technology does. And the second reason is that we now live in a hot house. The global temperature is increasing. Indian temperature is increasing much more rapidly than global average. And therefore, cooling is no more a luxury. It used to be a luxury. Even it is a luxury right now. But 10 years down the line, it is going to become a necessity. Everyone will require cooling solution. Now, cooling solution, the first answer is to make a house which doesn't heat itself. Currently, we are building houses that are hot houses. They heat itself, and then we use equipment to cool it. So the biggest business opportunity is to make sustainable building. And that could be multiple trillions of dollars worth of industry. And then the second part is, if you need to cool, then what kind of technology you need? And I think that lay of the land has been put out in the World Bank report. Correct. So my bet is that sustainable building, green cooling technology, energy efficiency technology could even be bigger than the renewable energy market that we are talking about.
Indeed. So this is as far as cooling solutions are concerned. When you look at a more comprehensive picture of the investment opportunities that are building up, and clearly this falls under environment, social and governance, the ESG, that many companies are focusing on. Strategies are being built, profitability targets are being set around it. I want to understand from you, Sachin Kotak, when you are consulting with these companies, which are the sectors where you see prime growth taking place when you talk about the sector as a whole, when you talk about green energy and the solutions that India really needs?
So when you look at each element, and again, as Bhushan said, everything is exciting, right? He talked about the whole cooling part of it, and there is excitement. Yes, renewable play is on, but apart from that, you think about carbon offsets. That's a market which is likely to emerge and grow very fast. You talk about ethanol, the biofuels market, that's supposed to see a great growth. You talked about whether you talk about the whole RTC play, that's seeing a lot of growth. The CNI or the commercial and the industrial play for the corporates is seeing a big growth. In fact, the whole battery storage system is seeing a big growth. The pump storage is seeing a big growth. So, if you look at the entire space, I think the way I look at it, you bet on the sector, you're not going to go wrong. But as you think of it, the real challenge that goes in, there are some profit pools which are very clean, visible. There are some profit pools which, are emerging. And as a corporate, as you think of it and think of your net zero targets, where are you going to place the bets on? Because say a scope 1 is something which is in your control, and the energy efficiency and cooling, all we talked in that goes there. Scope 2, which is again procurement of the renewable energy and all, is more easier. But the scope 3 is where the whole game is going to happen, because that's where you're talking about a much broader ecosystem. That's where the biggest profit pools are likely to emerge in future. And how do you think and participate in those opportunities and journeys is the real game.
Yeah, what I wanted to get at, which are these ecosystems that look like they are going to all come together at the fastest rate, perhaps? And that's the important question when you're looking at this kind of growth within the industry. Sachin, when you are considering the many options that investments are going to be drawn towards, where investments stand right now and where they could grow, in how much time, what are the considerations that you see those ecosystems abuzz right now that are showing the requisite signs, the ripeness for investments?
So as Vikram has started saying that there are 100 plus opportunities that we have been looking at. Each of them can be $1 trillion kind of an industry as such, right? So that's the kind of a space we are talking about. Now, as you look at the space, the challenge is going to be in terms of which are economical today. So we all know about renewables and the green energy space. I think there is a business, there are kind of corporates for kind of investing billions of dollars. But then there is this whole storage system which is emerging. There is the whole, how do you think about the energy efficiency as a market? And, cooling is only one part of the solution, but it's a much, much broader space because no corporate will be able to kind of drive net zero without doing that. So energy efficiency is a big space that's emerging. All said and done, carbon offsets will be required to make things work because you are never going to be net zero without carbon offset. There is going to be a whole blended fuel mix that's going to play. I think the question that really needs to be thought about is what time do you invest money in which, right? Because not every technology is matured, and as we speak, even the technologies which are matured today are being replaced by newer technologies. So how do you think about your portfolio of investments, right? Typically, when we talk to clients, we think about a 70-20-10. 70 is where you have clear visibility over the next few years. 20 is the growth portfolio, and then 10 is actually the bets, because that's where you want to ensure that you are in the game and know what's going to expand. So if I'm thinking of how do I think of my portfolio, maybe that's the way to think about it. There is anchor, which is known commercially viable today. There is a growth zone, and there are bets in terms of technology. And how do I split that portfolio is actually the game.
In terms of forming that kind of strategy based on the current scenario, the growth potential that we see, the possible partnerships between public and private in terms of the kind of investments, the government perhaps may have to take the lead, which seems a little problematic right now, Chandra Bhushan, at a time when fiscal deficit cannot be stretched with the world now grinding towards a recession. But what the government can do is frame policies that help realize the potential of certain sectors. Where do you see that happening right now?
Well, Vikram, first of all, if you look at the experience of renewable energy, today 90% of all renewable energy installation is actually private sector, okay? There were installation in the beginning when solar was coming and wind was coming. Government had very proactive tax policy on wind, which was accelerated depreciation, for example, which kickstarted the sector. With solar, it was reverse bidding. Initially with feed-in tariff and reverse bidding. But overall, if you look at the entire game that happened on renewable in the last 10 years, the government investment was not too much. Okay, it could be very, very small part of overall government expenditure. It was a catalyst. And I think government expenditure has to be thought through as a catalyst and not as investment. Okay, if you think through investment, there will always be a pushback because there are multiple demands on government money. But catalyst, how do we put government money as a catalyst to kickstart a sector is going to be important. Government is already doing this. The PLI scheme for battery, for example, okay? It's about 20,000 crore worth of investment, but that could become a 2 lakh crore business, okay, if it works. As far as policy is concerned, I think the government policy that works the best is least interference policy. Okay, you look at the growth of software industry, you look at the growth in renewable energy industry in states where it has grown. In fact, renewable has not grown across India. In fact, there's vast portion of India where there's no renewable energy. Renewable is only in western and southern states, eastern states, central state. I'm in Orissa right now, which has huge potential for renewable, but doesn't even have a gigawatt of renewable installation. So if I look at the lay of the land in terms of government policy, there's a lot that needs to be done.
Correct.
To ease the sector. Money is not going to be a problem. Indian companies will be able to attract vast amount of money from outside because our returns are far more higher. Okay, it's very simple.
Right.
Second, there's going to be huge amount of climate finance that is going to come. So I think government policy that allows money to come from outside, investment to come, attract climate finance, allows private sector to invest and use that catalyst money. That's the formulation that I will look at.
Well, the opportunities are huge, and you've both spelled out the kind of sectors that could be drawing in that kind of investment. If India has to transition to a low-carbon economy, it will need vast amounts of funding over the next 5 decades or so. We are, of course, going to be the world's most populous nation. We want to reach net zero by 2070, all of which are pointers towards the opportunities that lie. And even with that timeline, we would be the last of the world's largest emitters to become net zero. But given that kind of target and given the possibilities that now exist when it comes to carbon emission reductions, it is an important space for investments that we'd want our viewers to look favorably towards. Thank you very much, Sachin Kotak and Chandra Bhushan, for joining us on this discussion, giving us your perspective on it, and we'll keep tracking that space. Thanks very much.
Thank you.